Very good evening and welcome to this evening's Cabinet meeting on Tuesday the 13th of May. So before we get underway, a little piece of housekeeping for those of us in the room. We are not expecting a fire alarm, so should the alarm sound, please exit via the nearest exit and gather in the car park next to the library. Because I please ask that all mobile phones and electronic devices are now turned to silent. Please note that we are using hybrid meeting arrangements this evening with officers and councillors who are not members of the Cabinet having the option to join the meeting via Zoom, and we're also live streaming this meeting via the Council's YouTube channel to encourage more people to engage in our public meetings. Therefore, can I please remind everyone to use their microphones when speaking and, of course, turn them off when you are finished. Anyone attending the meeting remotely must use their raise hand function when they wish to speak and to declare any interests at the appropriate time. If anyone attending the meeting remotely loses connection, the meeting will continue and you will have the option to follow the meeting via the YouTube live stream. So, if we start the meeting with apologies, please.
Chairman, I have none.
Thank you very much. Item 2 is to confirm as a correct record the minutes of the Cabinet on the 15th of April this year. I move from the Chair.
Very happy to second, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. All those in favour, please indicate.
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you. Opportunity for members to disclose any interests. If any member has a pecuniary or a non-pecuniary interest, please confirm that at this point, please. None shown. So we move on to urgent items. We do have one urgent item this evening, and that is the Cabinet's response to the Overview and Scrutiny Board's recommendations in respect of the call-in of the decision of the Brokenbury solar farm. Just for awareness, this item will be dealt with after our listed agenda items. So I will be coming back to that one. So moving on in the order that we have printed, item 6 is formation of a social housing delivery programme for Torbay and the associated financing proposal. Councillor Tyerman.
Thank you. This paper reflects what was promised, I think about 8 or 9 months ago, when we brought the first Hotels to Homes scheme to this table and to Council for approval. We said at that stage we wanted to bring forward a paper. I had hoped we would be able to bring it forward quicker than now. But circumstances with the change of government, with delays in understanding how Homes England would support the scheme, have meant that now is the appropriate moment to bring it forward, not earlier. In bringing this paper forward, we are slightly widening the scope from the Hotels to Homes scheme to cover any repurposing of property from brownfield sites. Therefore, although we would absolutely think that hotels would be the main source of individual schemes, it may not be the only source of individual schemes going forward to be included under this paper. I'm going to read through the proposal, the recommendations for Cabinet today, because they have undergone some slight change, some slight rewording to make sure that we're getting absolute clarity on what's being decided and how we progress going forward when we do bring individual schemes to the table. The recommendations for Cabinet today are that the Cabinet notes that the existing total amount of capital grant funding received to support the project is £5 million, comprising £3 million from the Levelling Up Partnership and £2 million from the Devon and Torbay devolution deal, and notes that this grant funding will be used for both interim funding of schemes before business cases are finalised and for part funding of completed schemes. 2, the Cabinet approves the principle of the funding model for each accommodation repurposing scheme, namely that each scheme is funded from a combination of Homes England grant, an appropriate level of supported prudential borrowing, with any residual funding requirement made up from monies already received from the Levelling Up Partnership, the Devon and Torbay devolution deal, or any other relevant affordable housing subsidy available to Torbay Council at the time. 3, that subject to full Council approving the £20 million prudential borrowing, the Cabinet approves a stated ambition to create an accommodation repurposing programme that is able to deliver an average of 75 units per year, and that full business cases for each scheme be presented to Cabinet for approval in due course. 4, that subject to full Council approving the £20 million prudential borrowing, Cabinet provide delegated authority to the Director of Finance, in consultation with the Cabinet Member for Housing and Finance, to acquire sites for the accommodation repurposing programme ahead of Cabinet consideration of a full business case where it's necessary to do so. 5, that Cabinet request the Head of Strategic Housing and Delivery prepare an annual report for consideration by Overview and Scrutiny Board and Cabinet demonstrating progress against the project. And then finally, item 6 is a recommendation that we're going to make to Council, that £20 million of prudential borrowing be approved to part fund individual schemes within the accommodation repurposing programme, subject to repayment of borrowing being supported by rental income from the schemes after deduction of projected management and operating costs and appropriate allowances for future maintenance cost of the properties, taking account of any grant funding that may be available for the individual site. I think I just want to pick on 2 or 3 things to mention. One is the target of 75 units per year. I think we would all probably realise that, having come from where this council has been providing accommodation in the past, that's quite an ambitious target. I don't think it's one that we are probably likely to meet in year 1, but that's the level we want to get to. The other thing is, of course, it probably means it's more important to focus on making starts to provide 75 units in each year rather than completions, because each scheme will take its allocated time to arrive at its final conclusion, and sometimes they will be that timing may be variable and slightly out of our control in planning forward. So I think it's what I'm looking for, and what I hope that members around the table and members across the council will be looking for, is to see that we can deliver 75 starts over the next 12 months and 75 starts for the 12 months to follow. So I think that's where we are in terms of ambition. And what I would also say, and I've said a number of times, we do have to be aware that it's still going to have to be that each scheme is financially sustainable, and that is going to depend on continued support from Homes England. So that is an important function about each individual scheme and to meeting our ambitious target. The other thing I just wanted to pick on was the timing of bringing things forward. It's mentioned in the detailed notes to this that it is in the nature of this sort of scheme that the many different delivery models could be being used. And in many instances, we will need to incur costs before being able to produce a detailed business case. Those costs effectively are being covered in the short term from within the grant funding scheme we've got, so they're not at risk to the council. but it is important that we are able to make purchase of land, purchase of existing hotels, sometimes in advance of completing a business plan, because if we don't act and make purchases when we need to, the opportunity may well have deserted us. So the timing of things means that it is going to be actions taking place prior to completed schemes coming to this table for consideration. Those initial costs and expenditure will be done with a lot of care and a lot of looking, so that we believe we are moving in ways that are viable, and we are making purchases that, if the worst came to the worst, could always be sold on in the market. So that's the way we intend to operate. The detail that's behind that in the paper, I hope you've all read through, and I hope that will give us a sense of direction that we can all support and all follow, and allow our delivery team to get on with the job.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor. Councillor Lewis will second this proposal.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Chairman. And I think this is a great news story. And first of all, I'd like to thank Councillor Alan Tyman and his team, Sam Irvin and the other housing team members, for all the hard work they've put in, which is a new scheme, a scheme which is really worthwhile, and one that hopefully will change many things, because it's not only providing homes, it's also providing other things, which I will mention. I mean, the hotels to home, Councillor Tyman said it's not only the hotels, could be care homes, could be other buildings that are appropriate to turn into homes. We had a meeting yesterday of the local plan, where we were discussing sites on green sites that could be developed, but the more brownfield sites that we develop, the less houses we have to put on our beautiful green fields. We know that the government have told us that we've got to build 940 homes, so it may not sound a lot, 75 a year against a target of 940, but it all helps, so well done on that. But it also improves the street scene, because many of these buildings are tired and worn out. As you know, as an administration, we are looking to spend a lot of money, some of it from government, some of it from outside investors, for the development of the Debenham site, the Picture House in Paynton, and the Pavilion. So I see this as, on top of that, that it improves our street scene, so that those buildings that are currently derelict can be made fit for purpose, and at the same time provide a home. So I believe it's a win-win situation. We have more homes, which means we don't have to build on greenfield sites. We have a better street scene for the residents, visitors and businesses alike. And of course, it is providing homes for those most in need. So well done to the team, and I think this is one of the most important recommendations that we have before us over the past 2 years. We can talk about regeneration and everything else, but this is providing real homes for real people. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor. Going to open up for debate within the Cabinet. Councillor Boy.
Thank you, Leader, and absolutely, this is the best news this week. I want to say thank you to Councillor Alan Tyman and professional colleagues for their work on this project, and thank you for establishing good relationships with Homes England. The principal money that we're starting with, the 5 million we're starting with, comes from the Levelling Up programme and comes from the devolution. So thank you and professional colleagues who've been very much involved with Torbay being a part of the devolution. We are not going to solve Torbay's deep-rooted economic and social issues without building more homes for local people. And within the report, it indicates particular groups who hopefully in the future will benefit from this project. Particularly pleased to see that there is mention of care experienced young people. There is a specific mention that future projects may include units for care experienced young people. But we're not going to move forward without more housing. Absolutely, using the redundant hotels seems to me to be the step forward. I think this could well capture the imagination of people up the line who I know the government wants to significantly increase the delivery of housing, and in a deprived area like Torbay, where we're really proud of our new hotels, we want to look again at what we can sensibly do with the redundant stock. So this is such a sensible way forward. It's a well-written report. I want to read out paragraph 2.1 to show it can be done, to show what happens when you have ambition. So in the early 2000s, the Torbay area regularly delivered an average of 100 to 180 new affordable homes per annum, reaching a peak in 2013-14 of 273 new affordable homes. Since then, delivery has dropped significantly. Average annual delivery over the last 5 years has been just 31 homes. This is against a backdrop of high and growing need for homes by local households registered with Devon Home Choice. So it shows what can be done when you have that ambition, and this ambition to start with delivering 75 units a year from hotels and other redundant commercial properties. That is the right ambition. So I'm so very pleased to be able to support it this evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Billings.
I'd, Mr. Chairman, totally endorse what other speakers have said. Alongside projects like Brighter Bay and the step change we've delivered in terms of enforcement, this is up there, I believe, in terms of one of the most fundamental things that we are doing as an administration. Only last week, I was sitting for 2 days in a planning inquiry considering 77 homes on 2 large fields just outside of Brixham. We're talking here about 75 homes every year from our derelict or underutilised brownfield sites. We're talking about visually improving the existing urban environment, providing housing in accessible locations near people's work, near people's areas where they choose to socialise, far more sustainable. We're potentially using the existing built fabric of buildings, so we've got less embodied carbon going into bringing forward these new homes, and it chimes with what, when we asked communities through the neighbourhood plan process, what they all told us that they wanted. They wanted a brownfield first approach to delivering growth, with our greenfield sites being protected as far as possible, and that is exactly what we're doing here. I look forward to a future meeting when we can look back at the successes on this project and we can uplift that number even further. Well done, Councillor Timon. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. So I'm going to move outside of the Cabinet table, and I'll address first of all the Shadow Cabinet Member, Councillor Cowell.
Thank you, Chair, and I welcome this development. It's building on some of the initiatives that we had in the past, which started off with the £10 million to buy 30 plus properties to ease the crisis in temporary accommodation. It was always going to take a lengthy time to rebuild the capacity within the council and its staffing to start being able to deliver projects such as before us tonight. It's a fact that the council housing services, or the services offered by the council to support housing, were spread across the council because the original housing department just disappeared and was fragmented. I think actually with the better focus with Sam Irving and his team in place and the work of Councillor Timon, then we are beginning to see a step forward in addressing that massive issue we have in Torbay of under-delivery of social housing. It's a real issue. Affordable housing is not affordable for most people in Torbay. That is a stated fact. We also need to recognise that the whole issue of housing is very much part of the Devon and Torbay Combined Authority. It would be bizarre if we weren't bringing forward some of these initiatives when we're putting housing at the top of the Combined Authority agenda. So the 75 properties a year is a significant start. As Councillor Billings alluded, it would be good to see that uplifted in the fullness of time. But you know, let's crack on, let's get on with it. It has cross-party support, and I believe I will be seconding this at full council on Thursday, which just shows the importance that we put for delivery of social housing in Torbay. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor. Before I bring it back to Cabinet, just checking online if we've got any more speakers. We haven't, so I'll bring it back to Cabinet. And for me, we've demonstrated through the Levelling Up Partnership and through the Devon and Torbay devolution deal that we are up for delivering these kind of projects. We are leading by example, certainly across Devon and Torbay. And 75 units per annum on brownfield sites is an ambitious target. Now, some may feel that it's not ambitious. However, as Councillor Bye already pointed out when he read 2.1 from the report, from our pretty low starting position of 31 homes over recent years, 75 per annum is a hugely ambitious target. And the reality is, we are only going to be able to get there because of the relationship that we already have with Homes England. Homes England, at one point, were not looking to really invest in Torbay. However, where we are now, we've got a great relationship with Homes England. We've demonstrated that we can bring some monies into this project. This is basically us putting our money where our mouth is, us effectively at council this week putting £20 million into this project to get this across the line. So I'm delighted that it will have cross-party support. So in order to get it to a cabinet on Thursday, I will, before I move to the vote, my apologies, I will go to Councillor Tyman to wrap up.
Yes, I would like just to add one thing that's occurred to me in terms of the comments coming from a couple of people. To deliver this, we do need to put more capacity in. This is not, we're not going to achieve 75 units with even the expanded team that Sam Irvin's got now. But what I am going to say is what I think we can also be proud of in this council, despite all that one's hearing at the moment in the press about the fact that money from second homes is not going in many areas to support affordable housing. We took the decision in the last budget to do just that. The money is in there to provide more capacity and staff on an ongoing basis. There is money in there to help support on a one-off basis other elements that we need to do. So I think I'm really grateful for all members across party in the council for approving that extra money in the budget and giving that a support that is actually going to allow us to feed back into this. And please, if you do hear elsewhere other councils saying that money from second homes isn't going into affordable housing, in Torbay it is, and we want to get that message through. We are using that for what I believe was the fundamental purpose that a lot of people had behind them when they actually promoted that as a concept. So we'll drive that forward in the way we want to.
Thank you very much indeed. So we will move to the vote. Recommendations have already been moved 1 to 6. All those in favour, please indicate.
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Move on to item 7, which is housing policies, to consider a report on various housing policies that would provide a robust governance framework around the management of the council's housing stock. Councillor Tyerman.
Thank you, Chair. I think this one will be very much shorter, simpler. Basically, we need within the council to have a set of policies, many of which were delivered, many of which were put together when we had Tor Vista and have been rewritten to bring forward again, all with some degree of revision to bring them up to date. I think we've had to add to that a couple of policies, one in terms of right to buy, and made some substantial changes to the lettings policies. But there's a set of policies here which are all designed to help us manage what will be a growing quantity of stock in the next 2 or 3 years certainly, and manage it efficiently as a responsible landlord to provide a service that I hope will be on a par with that provided by anybody else, and hopefully in some ways I'm looking for it to be a service to our residents, to our tenants, that will be seen as an exemplar in Torbay.
Thank you, Councillor. Happy to second this from the Chair. Councillor Tyman basically explained exactly where we are. It's primarily a simple set of taking the original Tor Vista Home policies, we slightly amend them and bring them before us. This is, to be honest, the start of what will be a whole host of policies. However, these are the ones that do need to be approved by the Cabinet. So, on that, I'll open up for debate from either around the Cabinet table, which I'm not seeing any hands, move across to the Shadow Cabinet member, Councillor Cowell.
Thank you, Chair. Just to say supportive. We had a review of these, overview and scrutiny last week. It is very much a tidying up exercise as we transfer the stock from the former company. So supportive. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Tyerman, anything to add?
I don't think I need to add anything.
Thank you, in which case we will move straight to the vote. All those in favour, please indicate.
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you. Item 8 takes us on to the Torbay Council Food Action Plan. And at this point, we'll move across to Councillor Tranter. Thank you very much, Councillor.
This item is to consider a report on the Torbay Food Action Plan, which aims to support the delivery of the Torbay Food Strategy. We know that healthy and affordable food is fundamental to our health and well-being. That's why in January of this year, Cabinet endorsed the Torbay Food Strategy, which was produced collaboratively with the Torbay Food Network. The food strategy sets out the blueprint for changing the food system in Torbay and why highlighted activities that we can take locally to promote positive change over the next 5 years. We know the food strategy is ambitious and that we need to work smartly and collaboratively to deliver it. The Food Action Plan sets out the activity that the Council is committed to delivering over the next year to support the delivery of the food strategy. Thank you.
Thank you. I understand that Councillor Bye is due to second.
Thank you so much. I'm very pleased indeed to second this report, which seems very focused. There is nothing more basic than helping people with food and making sure that people have access to and enjoy the right food. Various initiatives, for example, working with the family hubs, connects with families, children and young people. An emphasis on encouraging breastfeeding, which we know is one of the ambitions of our family hubs and where we are making good progress. Encouraging people to have the opportunity to grow fresh food locally and working with the business community was one of the recommendations from Overview and Scrutiny. There's a recommendation that we get involved with Small Business Week, and I tried to Google the Small Business Week, and I looked at Small Business Saturday, and Small Business Saturday was something supported by Barclaycard, and other credit cards are available. And I that wasn't a joke, that was serious. That's the closest you've come to it. Thank you so much, Councillor Cowell. I couldn't quite see that we have a Small Business Week in the Bay, but there was a National Small Business Week initiative that's the week that's just gone. That was, in fact, the 10th. I think it may be this week or it may have been last week, but there we go. So we're trying to work with the business community. I think in lots of towns and town centres, in some parts of the Torbay, there is an abundance of fresh food and a range of food supplies, making our town centres more interesting and places to visit. And within the Bay, I think at either end of the Bay, we can see that. Maybe we need to work with the business community to see how we promote that in our other town areas. But this is a very focused report. As I say, this can't be anything more important than people having access to food. We're working with the voluntary and community sector, and I'm very pleased to second this report. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you also for the information on Small Business Week. But just to give you some more information, Small Business Saturday is the 21st of November this year. And that is something that we do absolutely celebrate across Torbay. So any more comments or any debate from around the table? In which case we will look across to the Shadow Cabinet Member, Councillor Douglas Dunbar, who I think is in the virtual room. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, this was thoroughly discussed at Overview and Scrutiny, and I have to say that I welcome the action plan, and I will watch to see how it goes on, because I think it's a really good plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any more comments from around the room? Councillor Tranter, across to yourself for final sum up. Anything else that you want to add?
That was me. Done. Thank you.
Thank you. We shall move to the vote then, please. All those in favour, please indicate.
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much. On to item 9, which effectively joins us this evening. It's a report from the Overview and Scrutiny Board, and it's an update on the Domestic Abuse Safe Accommodation Needs Assessment Refresh. Councillor Tranter.
This item is to respond to the recommendations of the ONS Board. The Domestic Abuse Service Safe Accommodation Needs Assessment Refresh was submitted to ONS on the 12th of March 25. An action plan, Appendix 2 of the papers, was also shared with the Board following the award of a further $400,000 from government. The ONS Board considered the papers and asked a range of questions relating to therapeutic support for children and families, details of the Peninsula Therapeutic Approach, current behavioural change programmes, provision for minority groups, numbers of referrals to the Domestic Abuse Service. Further information and responses to questions are detailed within the pack, pages 83 to 85. It should also be noted that there is a spotlight review of domestic abuse on the work programme for Adult Social Care and Health Overview and Scrutiny Sub-Board later in the year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Billings.
Thank you, Chair. As Councillor Tranter has summarised, we've got a very important issue here with a comprehensive answer following the consideration of the matter by Overview and Scrutiny, and I'm very pleased to second.
Thank you. Comments around the Cabinet table? Okay. Shadow Cabinet Member, I guess would be, I know that we haven't got Councillor Long with us at the moment in the room. He is.
I do believe he's there.
Okay, I do believe he is there. So, Councillor Long, across to yourself as the Overview and Scrutiny Coordinator, sir. Oh, my apologies. Okay, that's fine. So we believe he's logged in, but not actually. He's scheduled to join us a little bit later on in the meeting, but he is logged in. Is there anybody else from the either shadow cabinet member, which would probably be Councillor Douglas Dunbar? Any comments?
I'll get there in a minute. Just to say that we wholeheartedly support this very important piece of work, and looking forward to the spotlight review at ONS later in the year.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
My apologies, I didn't mean to interrupt. Thank you very much indeed. In which case we shall move to the vote. All those in favour, please indicate.
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you. We now move to item 10, which is the plan for neighbourhoods. And from the Chair, I'm absolutely delighted this evening to propose the recommendations in the report at 3.1, 3.2 and 3.3 in support of the plan for neighbourhoods and our formal partnership with the Torquay Place Leadership Board. This represents more than a policy decision. It's a critical step in shaping the next decade of regeneration and local empowerment in Torquay and by extension, effectively across Torbay. In recent years, local government has increasingly been asked to do more with less, to act as both the service provider and the enabler, the steward and the innovator. And the plan for neighbourhoods meets that challenge head on. It gives us a framework, it gives us the funding, and it gives us the partnership to just do that. I think it is important to recognise this partnership unlocks £19.5 million over the next 10 years. And I think it is worth reiterating that £19.5 million over the next 10 years. And I think what is a first, 75% for capital projects like infrastructure and buildings, and 25% for revenue, which can support essential services, operations, and community engagement. But this isn't just about the money. It's about the mission, and that mission is to improve the lives of the people of Torquay through projects and reflect their needs, aspirations, and vision for the future. But why does this matter to Torbay Council? Because this approach represents a shift in how we govern. It's not a top-down approach. It is a side-by-side approach. Yes, with the council acting as the accountable body, but with community leaders at the helm. Our role becomes clearer, more strategic. We're not just approving projects here, we're enabling neighbourhoods to lead. And I think it is probably worth mentioning at this time that the foundations of the Torbay Place Leadership Board, which together with the council has managed to attract over £100 million worth of investment, being able to represent the Bay and to speak with a single voice. And it is that Torquay Place Partnership Board that effectively falls out through the Torbay Place. I think it's also worth talking about the people that sit around this new board. The board brings together residents, small business owners, school leaders, faith groups, healthcare experts, the police, the voluntary sector, and many more. These are people who basically walk our streets, serve our children, keep our communities safe, and understand local needs better than anyone. So fundamentally, this is a really good news story. We need to put the plan for neighbourhoods in place. We are a council with vision, ambition, and crucially, collaborative spirit. The plan for neighbourhoods doesn't diminish our authority, it enhances our ability to lead. It's a plan that reflects the very best of local government, responsive, representative, and resilient. So I urge everyone this evening to support this motion. We need to formalise this partnership and effectively, as I say, £19.5 million coming into Torquay, which will make some amazing differences across the whole of our communities. Councillor Lewis.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. In fact, I think you've covered it brilliantly, and I really haven't got much more to say, except that we are lucky that we've got this money for Torquay, and it is money. We got over 100 million, which really was for place development. This money is really for the community, and that's why this board is being set up, to make sure that that money is spent wisely and helps the good people of Torquay. Thank you. Happy to second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions within the Cabinet? Councillor Bye.
Thank you, and I think I'm correct in saying I'm the only Cabinet member who represents a Torquay ward and actually lives in Torquay. So really, really pleased that this money is coming to Torquay, and it is for our neighbourhoods. It's absolutely to make a difference, not as I see it on the showpiece things down on the front, where we're making very good progress, but absolutely to work with the community leaders and make a difference and turn things around in some of our most deprived neighbourhoods. What are the things that will really make a difference out on the estates and in our communities? So it's absolutely right that we get good community leadership on this board. And my understanding is that that is what it is set up to do, and that is how it is being set up. So absolutely looking forward to all the results that will come and making a difference in our communities in Torquay. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Let's move out of the Cabinet table and touch base with Councillor Law.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Yes, so I thought I'd come in. I'm very pleased to have been asked to sit on this board as the councillor representative. It's essentially, as you said, Councillor Thomas, a community board, and that's something, as you know, me, I love my community, so it's something that really appeals to me. 10-year plan, and as you say, to unlock the potential our town has, and we have a lot of issues, but we have a huge amount of potential. 75 areas and 3 goals for this board set out by the government: thriving places, stronger communities, and local people taking control of their futures, which again is something that really appeals to me, empowering our communities. But it's also, I think, within the realms of this it's important to not lose sight of the fact that has got us this funding, so I really look forward to seeing how the community shape it and make the most out of it. So thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Carroll.
Thank you, Chair, and I'd just like to echo a lot of what Councillor Law just said. And I think it was back in 2011 that I and others brought together the first meeting of the Torquay Neighbourhood Forum. And that forum had very much started setting some of those key objectives in terms of focusing on particular areas of Torquay that needed regeneration, not least our town centre. And many of those projects that we've been talking about over the last 2 or 3 years actually started life as an embryo, not just in a certain vision from a former mayor, but also from the efforts of the group of volunteers from within our communities who've dedicated thousands of hours of voluntary time in developing, maintaining and supporting the delivery of those neighbourhood plans. This local plan, the place leadership, would actually really focus on some of those opportunities within our communities, as has been said. I think there's a huge capacity and energy within our communities across Torquay to be able to help make a real difference over the next decade. £10 million sounds a lot, but when you think about some of the projects that you'd like to see delivered within those communities, then it needs to be prioritised and well managed. And I think the capacity of the people on that board, with the involvement of the community, the neighbourhood forum and other groups, will actually ensure that we get best value, and let's see how we can maximise the value by match funding with other grant opportunities. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Just check online that we haven't got any more hands. That's fine. In which case I will bring it back to the Cabinet. I don't think I've got anything else to add whatsoever, so we will just move to the vote. All those in favour, please indicate.
Unanimous, Chair.
Thanking you. I do believe we are at our final item that's on the agenda, but just to remind you that there is an urgent item that follows this one. So item 11 is the joint recommissioning of the local Healthwatch contract. Thank you, Councillor Tranter.
This item is to consider a report that seeks approval for the procurement and subsequent award of a contract for local Healthwatch, the independent health and social care consumer voice organisation. Healthwatch as a consumer voice organisation is extremely important in ensuring that public feedback is received on the performance and improvement programmes across health and social care. In Torbay, we have a long-standing partnership with our local Healthwatch, and this paper seeks to approve the re-procurement of our contract with them. The intention is to jointly commission this with Devon and Plymouth. This is the same approach as we took last time and has proved successful. The contract value of £97,000 per annum and contractual period is April 26 to March 32. This 6-year period is split into 3+3 year sections. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor. I'm happy to second this one from the Chair. And I thought, as Chair of the Health and Wellbeing Board, it might just be appropriate to talk for a few moments about what Healthwatch actually is. And it is an independent organisation. It is separate from the NHS, and it has no vested interest in the services that it monitors. There is a local Healthwatch actually in every area of England, and it also has the opportunity to feed back into a national body. And members around this table will know that they collect feedback from people using health and social care services, including hospitals, GP services, pharmacies and care homes. And they feed that information back to try and create better care, ensure decision makers listen, and to help make sure that our residents are more informed. We have a healthy relationship with Healthwatch in Torbay, and they sit around the Health and Wellbeing Board. Councillor Tranter has moved the 3 recommendations. I think this is really quite straightforward. It's a renewal of the contract with Devon, Plymouth and Torbay. It's a 6-year renewal with a 3+3. So happy to second that on the back of Councillor Tranter's proposal. And at that point, open up for any debate or questions, comments. Thank you. Councillor Lewis.
Just a very quick comment, Mr. Chairman. I used to be the portfolio for health and wellbeing and sat on the board. And I must say, Healthwatch in Torbay does a fantastic job. And when you look at it, Devon, Plymouth and Torbay, I think Torbay is probably the leading partner within that three-party. Having said that, of course, it is a partnership. It was the right thing to go down that route some years ago, but well done to Torbay for all the work they do through the Healthwatch. And I know there are many people out there, many patients who would echo those comments, that they do a great job here in Torbay. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Let's go outside of the Cabinet to the shadow Cabinet member who has responsibility for this services, which is Councillor Douglas Dunbar. It's been a busy night for you this evening, Councillor.
It sure has. Thank you very much, Councillor Thomas. I'd really just like, I worked with Healthwatch prior to becoming a councillor. I'd just really like to take the opportunity to thank them for all the invaluable service they do to our community. And thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to say that.
Thank you very much indeed. Any further comments from around the room or for the virtual room? In which case, we'll come back to the portfolio holder. Councillor Tranter, anything further to add? Thank you very much indeed. In which case, we shall move to the vote. All those in favour, please indicate.
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. So I will move back to the urgent item that we have before us this evening, which is the Cabinet response to the Overview and Scrutiny Board's recommendations in respect of the call-in of the decision on the Brokenbury solar farm. I would just like to reiterate to members that I would like to, if it's humanly possible, to deal with this item in what we know as Part 1, which is within the public domain. That means that the figures and the items that were in the exempt report, if any members wishes to talk about those, they would have to come into Part 2, which means we would need to stop the stream and we would have to do that in private. So if we're able to keep our questions to a Part 1, that would be fantastic. And at that point, I will invite Councillor Lewis to place his proposal.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to Overview and Scrutiny for the other night when we had a full and frank discussion on the situation of the solar farm. And I think what did come across is that cross-party, we all want a solar farm at Brokenbury. It's just a question of how it's delivered. And that's, I think, how the discussion went forward. And if we deliver it, we believe that the margins are very, very tight. The costs have risen. We've put it out for tender. We've got a lowest bid, but it hasn't been validated yet. So we don't know whether it will be validated. And the risk, of course, that the unit price may in fact go up. South West Water have confirmed that they will not budge on increasing that unit price. So if we have to go to a higher bidder, then it becomes even more marginal. The scheme that we're now putting forward, which is giving a lease to South West Water for them to build it and for us to lease the land. With this scheme, it's very little risk. The money we would get would be guaranteed. And strange enough, in the first 10 years, there's very little difference between us doing it or us building the solar farm, except, of course, for the risk. There's no risk on this. The risk would be with South West Water. And, of course, we wouldn't have to borrow any money to be able to do it because they would use their resources to build the solar farm. And we heard at the Overview and Scrutiny Board from senior officers, at least three senior officers, that their recommendation was that we went on the lease to South West Water scheme rather than build the solar farm ourselves. We as a Cabinet have taken on board what the Overview and Scrutiny Board presented to us, their recommendation. We believe that we have taken the right route and that we will continue with the recommendation that was approved at the Cabinet meeting on the 11th of June, except for the change that we took on the 11th of June, that the prudential borrowing, we don't believe that we should rescind that decision. I will go through the recommendations so everyone is clear what we are voting on. But I believe we have picked the right scheme, and I think we will, with South West Water, deliver on the solar farm. So if I can just read out the new recommendation for reference, and that the Cabinet reconfirms the following decision made on the 15th of April 2025, that the following decision of Cabinet made on the 11th of June 2024 be rescinded, that the Chief Executive, in consultation with the Leader of the Council, Finance Director and Cabinet Member for Finance, should review and agree the final business plan after the EPC tender and power purchase agreement stage are complete, and subject to that agreement is then authorised to agree and finalise the detailed terms and enter into the contract with South West Water or other purchaser of electricity. And, subject to the above, authority be delegated to the Director of Finance in consultation with the Cabinet Member for Place, Development, Economic Growth to agree and finalise the detailed lease terms in line with an independent market valuation and enter a long-term lease for the land edge read as set out in Appendix 1 of the submitted report, and modifies the following: that the decision of the Cabinet to recommend the following to Council be rescinded. Minute 116 refers, and that the report be withdrawn from the adjourned annual Council meeting on the 15th of May. That's this Thursday. The Cabinet recommends to Council that the following decision of Council made on the 18th of July 2024 be rescinded, that up to 2,750,000 of prudential borrowing be approved subject to securing a unit rate per milliwatt that exceeds the loan repayments, covers projected maintenance and other operational and equipment replacement costs, and provides an appropriate surplus per annum over the life of the scheme, commensurate with the level of risk. So in other words, what we are saying is that we, in agreement, subject to the terms and conditions, will lease the land to South West Water to provide a solar park, that we will hold the potential borrowing until the lease and everything else has been confirmed, because we believe it is prudent to keep that up our sleeve in case the terms and conditions of the lease are not met. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Move across to Councillor Billings, who will second that proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to expand on three brief points following that very comprehensive explanation by Councillor Lewis. The first one is just to look back in terms of when the planning permission was first granted. And the council's had the planning permission in place for 4 years. We need to get on and deliver this scheme, and this, in my view, is the fastest way that we can achieve that, and we can get this solar farm that there's cross-party consensus needs to be built. And so sort of just recognising the council's been running with the ball thus far. This is an opportunity to pass on the opportunity to actually build the scheme to South West Water, and currently we've been running it for 4 years, and I believe the quickest way to getting that built will be to give the opportunity over to South West Water. The second thing, and related to that, and partially explaining it, is the issue of capacity. Our council's embarking on a very ambitious capital programme. We've got lots of officers focused on doing key works in relation to that, delivering on our town centres and all of these key issues. And this is one where if we try and spread our efforts too thinly, I believe that that's not the best, most appropriate way of doing things, and therefore it's more appropriate we focus the resources we do have on the sites where we are the only party to deliver them. In this case, there's South West Water who's standing there saying that they could deliver it, and therefore I think that reinforces what I spoke about. And then thirdly and finally, it's the senior officer advice. Ultimately, as councillors, irrespective which way from time to time a council is led and which political colours are leading the council. Ultimately, implementing the political views of councillors come down to the paid professional officer team, and the Overview and Scrutiny Board heard very clearly from the professional officers that spoke directly to the board that in their professional view that this was the best, most appropriate course of action for the council. And I think it would be challenging for any councillor, and particularly any administration, to cast those views aside without any strong reasons to do so. In this example, not only do I not find any strong reasons to dismiss the views of the professional officer team, but I actually very strongly agree with those views for the reasons I've set out. And so whilst it's always sometimes good to have the opportunity to reflect and pause and think whether what one's doing is actually the sort of the best course of action, we've had that opportunity, we've gone through it, but ultimately I think what we have before us is in the proposal from Councillor Lewis the best course of action, and that's why I'm keen to second, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. I want to just thank the Overview and Scrutiny Board for effectively calling this one in, for effectively giving us an opportunity to do some more homework on the decision that we'd already got to effectively just say the checks and balances. Are we happy? Are we 150% happy with where we are? And I think it's been a really worthwhile and useful exercise. You know, as an administration, we spoke about deliverability. Deliverability doesn't mean we have to actually build everything ourselves, but it does mean that we need to absolutely deliver. This does allow us to deliver the solar farm at Brokenbury. It's not always appropriate for us to build it ourselves. At the end of the day, we need to look at the risk, we need to look at the public purse, and we had a very, very useful evening with the Overview and Scrutiny Board last week. So I genuinely thank them, but very, very supportive of where we are in this process, and more than happy to support Councillor Lewis's proposal this evening. I will be going outside of the board in just a moment, but before I do that, I'll be moving across to Councillor Thomas Jackie.
Thank you, Chair. So on the back of this agreement, I'm really pleased to share some genuinely positive news. As part of our ongoing efforts to support local community groups and ensure long-term sustainable outcomes, we've already introduced Brixham Archers to South West Water. I'm delighted to confirm that South West Water has stepped forward in a big way. They've agreed to provide a new home and space for the Archers, and that's entirely free of charge. This is a significant commitment, one that speaks volumes about their support for grassroots community activity. For Brixham Archers, this means security and stability. They now have the opportunity to continue developing the sport in the area and to welcome members of all ages and abilities and encouraging healthy and inclusive participation. It also opens up opportunities for further community engagement on a cost-free basis. This is more than just a change in venue, it's a meaningful outcome. This ensures a valued local club that thrive well into the future. It is also a great example of what can be achieved when local organisations come together with a shared purpose. So this isn't just about ticking a box. This is a real positive legacy arising directly from this agreement. And I think that's something we should all be proud of. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Move across to the Overview and Scrutiny Coordinator, Councillor Long.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Chairman, and I'm sorry not to be with you physically this evening, as it's always so much better in the room, as it were. And it's really interesting to see this change proposal come forward this evening. It's amazing what a call-in can achieve. If I have read the last minute report correctly, this new proposal now incorporates the council delivery as an option should the South West Water deal not work out. And that does cast some doubt on the South West Water deal. This and the borrowing is now being retained rather than being got rid of. This, to be clear, this change of heart would not have happened without the challenge at the last cabinet or the call-in. Just to provide some feedback, I was knocking on some doors in Brixham with some colleagues for the Brixham Town Council by-election last Saturday, and many residents were baffled at what they saw as South West Water being rewarded for failure, such as the sewage in the seas and rivers, and for the recent cryptosporidium outbreak in Brixham itself. The one beef that we had, which caused the call-in, was the lack of details of the risks or how they could be mitigated, and that complaint still stands today. Interestingly, and of course the archery announcement that's just been made again would not have happened without the call-in or the challenge at the last cabinet. And yet still no mention of the community dividend, which is still in force with a Torquay proposed solar farm, but not for this Brixham solar farm proposal. And of course, for some reason, that means that the Brixham end of the bay will be losing out. I think many of us still feel that this proposal for South West Water to do it is more about ideology than sound decision making, and we would feel that the council delivery model would bring greater financial benefit to Torbay Council and the Bay than the one that's being proposed. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments from outside of the Cabinet? Councillor Cowell?
Thank you, Chair. And unsurprisingly, Councillor Long has covered many of the points that I would have raised. It does raise an eyebrow that the absolute determination that the council's ability to deliver such a project was vilified by members of the Cabinet at the Cabinet meeting recently. And now we're leaving the door open just in case South West Water, for whatever reason, fall away. The same arguments that have just been rehearsed over the last 2 or 3 weeks, in theory, should still be in place in that eventuality. I do get quite frustrated when I actually have private conversations with senior officers and I talk about the detail of a particular project, to then find that this particular project could be delivered either way. It really is a matter of choice, and it is this administration's choice that they want to do the deal with South West Water for all the reasons that they believe. Like Councillor Long, I believe it's politically motivated and ideologically driven. Of course, I welcome, having been championing Brixham Archers for several years, any possible deal that South West Water are prepared to do with Brixham Archers. But what they're offering is nothing that we can have offered ourselves and should have already had in place. The delay in the time that it's taken for Brixham Archers to actually have their future secured, and let's hope it is, has been inexcusable. But what has been outlined tonight as an offer from South West Water to the club, as I say, is nothing that we can have secured with the council delivered option. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Any further comments from outside of the room? In which case, I will move back to Councillor Lewis.
Thank you very much, Chairman. To be honest with you, we've discussed this at Cabinet. We've discussed it at Overview and Scrutiny. We've discussed it here tonight. Hopefully the decision of the Cabinet will be that we get on with it and build the, let South West Water build the solar farm in Brokenbury. That's the main issue. And hopefully this is the end of it and we can get on with it and build the solar farm. Thank you.
Thank you. So all those in favour, please indicate.
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. That is the final item on this evening's agenda, and I now declare this meeting closed. Thank you.